Well, greetings and good Lord, the problems in New York City, and I never thought of this problem. They're thinking of banning people wearing masks at public protests and subways since they need to be able to identify potential lawbreakers, felons, villains, wrongdoers, terrorists, offenders, or delinquents, because there are a few of them in the city, just a few. And last year, Central Connecticut State University, my alma mater, contacted me via phone and told me that they were looking for some stories since it was about 50 years ago that I graduated. So I agreed to listen to their offerings, and they wanted me to tell my story about CCSU. CCSU. So I started by saying, "Are you familiar with the movie Animal House?" We both laughed, or he laughed, and so did I, as I knew he didn't want me to bring this subject up. But I played nice after that, and I made it very simple. I loved being in college on my own, and I did have a couple of semesters in which my performance was not very good at all. And I reiterated that the best part of the experience was the people I met. And I told them that I'm still in touch with some of them, as I like to stay in touch with people that can share the same memories. Even though some of those experiences are getting a bit fuzzy now, we had a ball, and it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. And you got to love the saying from the movie Some Like It Hot, the 1959 movie starring Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, George Raft, and Pat O'Brien, to name a few. It's a great movie, and here's the saying: "Look at that. Look how she moves. It's like Jello on springs. She must have some sort of built-in motors. I tell you, it's a whole different sex." And yeah, I have to agree. I always recall those moments that you can't forget. They stay with you forever. I am a sentimental person, and this was in Woodside in Queens back in the late 1970s. We were partying like mad, and our friend Pat was drinking from a can of Budweiser, and he was so bombed that he was going through the motions of drinking the beer. But our buddy Pete noticed that the can wasn't even open. He still had the tab on it. It was just a natural reaction when you're way past your limit of drinking, and I suppose we weren't far behind either. Love those days. If you're a comedy buff, and to me, I can't imagine anyone who isn't one, to the point that I feel sorry for those folks who can't relate. And actually, it's okay if you don't. But if you are one, you need to catch Albert Brooks's Defending My Life special on HBO. I've been very aware of much of his work, but not to the extent that this documentary portrayed, as he started doing his outrageous, unorthodox, and unconventional comedy in 1968. He is very possibly the most unique comic performer because much of what he does and says is spontaneous and brilliant and basically totally unpredictable. Again, I've known a good part of his work, but this special delves deep into his work and style, and he is considered by actors, producers, directors, and especially other comics to possibly being the most prolific and unique comic ever. I would not have agreed I would not have agreed, but after watching this documentary, he has got to be in the top five all time for his contribution to comedy and movies. Definitely a comic genius. And if anyone wants to know who created the saying, "You're damned if you do, damned if you don't," it wasn't Thomas Cromwell. It was actually me, as my wife forced it on me so many times that it had to be me. My poor wife. Disorder in the Courts, an intriguing story on MSNBC on Father's Day of all days about the courts in our country that are becoming overwhelmingly conservative and taking us back to the dark ages. Good Lord, did these ultra conservatives ever step into our modern times, and this is what our country is close to becoming now? Be careful out there, folks. These people are extremely dangerous and are interested in power and control, and they don't give a shit about anyone but themselves. This crap just never stops, and I sense the hostility in the wind shifting again, and they have been ever since 2016. Please make sure to get out and vote this upcoming fall. It's more significant than ever. And in the recent Tony Awards, one winner went up to the mic with her award, and she looks at her phone and says, "People, stop talking to me," which got a big laugh. And I'm thinking, maybe you shouldn't have brought your phone up to the podium or just left it with the person sitting next to you. Don't blame the people that are calling you. They love you and admire you, and you just won an award for your talents, which doesn't happen to too many people. And by the way, I hate cell phones too. Sometimes they become like an appendage, but they're not going anywhere soon. And hold on, I got a text message right there. A video I did a few weeks ago, or you could call it a vignette, when I spoke of a guy who introduced me to a friend stating that I was a decent dirtbag. Yes, a decent dirtbag. And with my name being Dennis, my dear friend Mary Ellen now calls me Triple D, which stands for Dennis the Decent Dirtbag. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for the shout out. And I'll stick with Triple D. I kind of like that tag too, so that's my new name now. After having a bit of a tiff with my wife, you know that happens in marriage and you can't keep it inside. And after 40 years of being together, you're not going to head for the hills. So it naturally took its course, and we both need each other, especially at our advanced ages. Though this was never said the next morning, we had been through these situations dozens of times, and I thought to myself that I should tell her that I need you more than you need me. But that would potentially be self destructive because I could see her looking and thinking to herself, he's right about that. Maybe this is my escape clause. But we all know you got to keep the airplane in the air and not let it crash. And if you're finding it difficult to find a mate, it's never an easy game. And as Albert Brooks says, who I just spoke of a little bit earlier, stop looking. Being desperate changes the whole process. Just be yourself and keep it light, and throw in some humor when it fits. Dating can be challenging, so relax, have a drink or two, because women can see right through you. Their eyes, ears, heart, and nervous system work like a fine tuned machine, especially on a date. And don't worry about it too much. Somehow my wife was okay with a second date, which is never guaranteed. And the worst place to go to meet women was the places with bands playing, because you can't hear a damn thing. So I get a call on my cell phone, and the words show up as probably fraud. So I answered the call by saying, "Hello, probably fraud. How is the fraudulent business going?" And I didn't make this up. It actually happened, and it turned into a very short phone call. And growing up as a child, just 2 blocks away from Long Island Sound, we were very fortunate to have the beach so close. And my father loved the water, and he was a good swimmer, fisherman, and owned a small boat for probably around 25 years. So naturally, he taught us to get used to swimming. And according to my mother, who stayed in the shallow end of the shore, he would take us out deeper into deeper water at a very young age, probably just about 3 or 4 years old. And he would toss us into the water to get used to it and get the feel of salt water and to be able to move around independently, which is a good idea. And of course, my father was always fooling around and playing jokes on people. And our mom told me and my brother that he did this with both of us. And he would say to mom, "Hey, if they can't keep their head above water, that's less mouths to feed." All right, I'm out.